Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, a Star Wars podcast. Today I'm going to propose a fan theory to you. A theory that I have never heard anyone else express.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my phone thought I was talking to it.
No need to apologize.
Okay, anyhow, my phone is alive, I swear. So, I'm going to propose a fan theory to you. A fan theory that, as far as I know, is unique to me. And that is simply this: that Palpatine was responsible for Shmi Skywalker's death. Yes, my theory is that Anakin's mom was killed as part of the machinations of Palpatine in his Machiavellian attempt to take over the galaxy. Alright, let's get into this. Anakin's mother, Shmi, is taken by the Tusken Raiders when they attack some of the settlers on Tatooine. Now, a little bit of backstory. So in Attack of the Clones, we learn that Shmi Skywalker was bought from Watto. Because remember, she was Watto's slave. She was bought by a man named Klieg Lars. Klieg bought her so he could free her. Freed her from slavery. They fell in love and they got married. Now, Klieg already had children. His son, Owen. Owen's girlfriend at the time was Beru. Owen and Beru would later get married and raise young Luke Skywalker. So, technically, that means that Uncle Owen is Luke's uncle. Now, you could say he's his step-uncle, true, but an uncle nonetheless. So, Klieg and Shmi got married, and then there was years later, there was a raid by Tusken Raiders in which Shmi was taken captive. She was brought back to the Tusken encampment, mistreated and tortured, where Anakin found her. She was able to see him before she died. And at her death, something snapped in Anakin. And his anger boiled over, and he massacred the Tusken Raiders. Of course, he confesses this to Padme. But apparently Padme fell in love with him anyway. That's a debate for another time. She found out the guy who has a crush on her just committed mass murder. And she didn't run away. I don't know. Maybe that's meant to be the flaw in Padme's character. That she's a good politician, a good compassionate leader. But when it comes to love, she's kind of reckless. Maybe people are like that. People are multidimensional. Nonetheless, the death of Anakin's mother pushed him closer to the dark side. In fact, one might say he embraced the dark side in that moment. Now, you may be wondering, how does Palpatine factor in? Well, let me explain. In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine references the death of Anakin's mother. In the lightsaber duel with Count Dooku, Anakin finally gets the upper hand. Quite literally, when he severs Count Dooku's hands, catches Dooku's lightsaber, and as the lightsaber's like scissors at Dooku's neck, Palpatine orders Anakin to kill Dooku, which Anakin does. After a little bit of persuasion. Do it. As Palpatine says. Do it. So he does. Then he frees the Chancellor. Now notice, Obi-Wan is knocked out during this moment, so Obi-Wan doesn't see what happens. Okay, so Anakin says to Palpatine, I shouldn't have done that, it's not the Jedi way. Palpatine then says, it is only natural. He cut off your arm, you wanted revenge. It wasn't the first time. Remember what you told me about your mother and the Sandpeople? Which, by the way, in that moment we hear the cries, not cries, but the sound of Sandpeople, of Tusken Raiders. You know, the that sound. So that kind of got my brain working in the direction of thinking that maybe Palpatine is slyly hinting at something. Or there's something in what he says that I interpret as perhaps him implying that there's more there. Not implying, but it's more the vibe that I get from hearing those words. Makes me think that Palpatine might be responsible for her death because he knew that he could use that as leverage to get Anakin to fall to the dark side. Now also we know that Anakin goes to Tatooine in Attack of the Clones because he is plagued by nightmares about his mother's suffering, being in pain. Maybe Palpatine, through the Force, was giving those nightmares and visions to Anakin. Maybe he did the same thing with the visions of Padme dying in childbirth. You know, we see in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin has those really frightening, surprisingly frightening for Star Wars, dreams of Padme dying in childbirth. Yeah. So maybe Palpatine is responsible for all of those visions. So I think that maybe Palpatine was sort of projecting those images into Anakin's mind, causing Anakin to go to Tatooine and fall to the dark side. Now I'm thinking that Palpatine, through his agents, like Count Dooku or somebody like that, was able to convince the Tusken Raiders to attack the human settlers and to take Shmi Skywalker captive. So that's just my fan theory about how that works. that A, Palpatine arranged Shmi's capture by the Sandpeople, and B, projected those nightmares into Anakin's mind so that Anakin would take the bait and go to Tatooine. So that's my theory, that Palpatine manipulated the situation to use it to his advantage. Alright, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to give you a very short alternate theory. See you in a moment. Hello there, this is Brennan Marr, host of Page Turners They Were Not, a Star Wars podcast. And I'm here to tell you about Anchor. Anchor is the best way to make a podcast. Why is that? Well, first off, it's free. Yes, you heard me right. Anchor is free. Anchor has all the tools you need to make a podcast from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you on various platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money from your podcast. And get this, with no minimum listenership. That means you can make money even if no one listens to your podcast. That, of course, is not ideal, as Anchor will allow you to spread your podcast, bring in more viewers, and you can make more money because of it. Everything you need to make a podcast is in one place on Anchor. If you're interested, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you, and may the Force be with you. Okay, we're back. Now, the alternate theory I wanted to talk about was actually pretty simple and most likely true. And that's that Palpatine did not cause Shmi Skywalker's death, but merely exploited it when Anakin told him about it. Now, we know from Revenge of the Sith that at some point after the events of Attack of the Clones, Anakin told Palpatine about what had happened to Shmi. Now, maybe Palpatine was not responsible for her death, but most likely he saw that moment when Anakin told him that and said, okay, here's something I can exploit. Here's his weakness that I can further exploit. Now, it is my contention that Anakin's big problem is he doesn't want things to change. He doesn't want to let go. He doesn't want to accept the natural course of life, accepting death, accepting fate. He just doesn't want that. And that's his Achilles heel. Because in his desire for things to stay the same, when death comes, when tragedy comes, he can't handle it. And, as we know, because of the death of his mother, he couldn't even handle the thought of losing Padme. You know, he promised his mother at her gravesite, I won't let this happen again to anybody. Yoda cautioned Anakin, warn them do not, miss them do not. Rejoice that they become part of the Force. And this is more pressing to me right now because my grandpa passed away yesterday. The idea of accepting death. It's hard, but it needs to happen. It's a natural part of life, and it's hard to, but I'm trying to. rejoice that my grandpa is now beyond pain. The lung cancer that he had was so debilitating. I can rejoice now that he's free of that. And my grandma and my aunt are free of the burden of needing to worry about his care. So death can be a hard thing to accept, but it is something that is a natural part of existence, and the dark side. In Star Wars, dark side users are obsessed with cheating death. They do not want to accept the natural order. Anakin's attachment problem was exploited by Palpatine. The fear of losing loved ones, as Yoda said, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Those are exactly the steps that Anakin took. So, Palpatine most likely exploited the death of Shmi more than caused it. But I still think that it makes sense if he caused it. Nothing in the canon says he didn't. But nothing said he did either. So it's open right now. But I think it's more likely that he exploited it. So those are my thoughts on the Machiavellian politics of Palpatine, and how he may or may not have been involved with the death of Shmi. Let me know what you think. Does Palpatine strike you as the guy that would do that? Do you have any theories about this that I may have overlooked? Or details that may or may not support the theory that I missed? Let me know. You can follow me on Twitter, if you'd like, at Brennan Blue, BRENNENBLUE. Thank you so much for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.